Alright, so after finishing recording all this and getting to editing it, I just realized that this video's audio just randomly cut it out near the end, which is pretty weird, to be honest. So this is my first time really recording a full audio only review, which is very interesting, to say the least. So first off, I'd like to say the obvious. This is Hello there, this is Warpath 1985 speaking, and in today's 6th day of the 12 Days of War, I shall be discussing the Transformers WFC Siege Ratchet. Now, when it comes to the character of Ratchet, overall he's pretty consistent throughout the entire franchise. However, not so much in the Generation 1 continuities. Especially since most of the time, in comparison to that of the cartoon and the Generation 1 cartoon, but comic book, more comic specifically, universes. Ratchet's not more of a, not stern, but more of this jovial medical officer seen in the cartoon. However, in the comic book, he's a lot more, so we're storm fan, but a lot more stern, a lot more serious, and he's a lot more of a man's man, essentially. And that general theme will be more expressed later on, as future depictions of Ratchet will lean more on the comic book characterization of the character. However, when it comes to Ratchet specifically, the Generation 1 character, he would technically be revived after his death in the Transformers movie, 1986 one. And I believe that's pretty much it for him, because I think he got revived. And then he was remained so for the rest of the manga of the Transformers, Japanese Transformers, during the main continuity, technically. Because I remember there's 3 different continuities, many continuities in between, so yeah. Generally, that is pretty much it for his characterization seen in the show and the comic book, cartoon, etc. Obviously, his design will also change a lot throughout the time. There are some being more lenient on the Generation 1 cartoon character model as color palette. Other times will be pretty much more based off of the comic book color palette as character model, including other occasions where all of them will be pretty much transformed into a more G1 toy color / stickered van mode or world mode. This would be a continuing feature / thing overall, and seeing most Ratchets later on, with the exception of both Siege Ratchet by Fat Technicality, because technically more or less take its color scheme a little more from IDW Ratchet, with his more dominant red palette with white intermixed with it, with off-white also being the thing. Technically in that case it was like a dark gray, but off-white is here, so I guess. With 86 actually being a lot more based off of the cartoon color palette. So, for the figure itself, the figure of Siege Ratchet is actually really good. Even though, yes, it is outdated overall in comparison with the 86 mold, however, it is still a really good figure overall, especially due to the fact that its accessories are not only exclusive, but also are unique to the character, and we're not seeing future figures. Like the rocket launcher, he's pretty much the only Ratchet that came with that rocket launcher, let alone a rocket launcher that actually has a unique rocket piece. All the previous Ratchets came with a rocket launcher, like the Mass Freeze figure in it, and I believe the Classics figure by Technicality. The Siege Ratchet came with a rocket launcher with a unique rocket piece. He also came with a wrench, which was unique to say the least. He has other like tools molded onto his forearm that's more intended for a different mode it also turns to besides his man mode. But yeah, it also comes with a wrench, which is pretty cool. Now, if you had the Red Cog figure slash figure accessories pack, it would have gone a tool gun slash a welding torch, which he was seen using in the War for Cybertron in FX show. However, in this case, it does come with Velocipac and everything, but it's Velocipac compatible, so you can recreate certain things here and there. But generally, in my display, it's just a tool gun rather than a welding torch seen with forcible exhaust, which also we can get up to exhaust as mentioned before in the exhaust review. So yeah, neat stuff. For articulation, however, he has pretty decent articulation overall. All the stunts, particularly in comparison with 86 Ratchet, it is still comparable nevertheless. He has a ball joint. He has shoulder hinged or exactly hinged shoulders, both outwards, inwards, and forwards. He has a bicep cut, a elbow bend, a waist swivel, a wrist swivel, a calf cut, but a thigh cut, a knee bend, and ankle tilt. Ratchet also has uniquely as measured for that molded on like other tools on his forearm. However, that's not the only exclusive part, as Siege Ratchet also has a bunch of other like neat parts, like obviously his shoulders, both his forearms, his head, obviously, the bumper as well being exclusive to this figure. And I believe like another part on the body is also exclusive, which might be like the hands or something else that's really minor, like being exclusive. But overall, those are the main exclusive parts that I'm aware of. It might be the parts of the lower legs that might be new. Unsure, particularly the panels. But everything else seems to be the same. Now for comparisons with Siege Ratchet, I do have here with Ratchet, Earthrise Wheeljack, the two creators of the Dinobots. You also have Grimlock, a representation of most of the other Dinobots because again, they're so big that it's kind of hard to fit all of them to frame. So yeah, there's your little Grimlock love. Slash down, but love in general. When it comes to transformation, however, it's pretty simple and very easy. Although yes, it is relatively speaking a little too simple, and you get very kind of wonky van mode. It is still very much a comparable van mode, nevertheless, especially since it looks a lot more sufficient in comparison to the Ironhide mold that was this figure's based off of. And yeah, features a very simple little van. It looks like a medical van. You can store his weapons as well on top. He also turns into his combat deck mode, or technically his engineering / repair deck mode, seen both with the G1 figure, Masterpiece figure, and also that Bakon figure as well. Also later on in the Earthrise figure, which did have a much larger combat deck mode, even though it wasn't really that comparable because there's a shield. Unfortunately, the figure did come with the rocket launcher / arm technically, and also the wrench, which means you can recreate this little repair bay here, which is a unfortunate thing, and does further like the need to own this figure if you want to have that with your other ratchets. If you want to have that specific ratchet with those specific ratchets to have those accessories, you gotta need these ratchets also, which I believe you can get these accessories on the secondary market relatively easily by themselves. Not sure because I only own the figure, and also that kind of goes to a different conversation, which is the availability of this figure, because the availability of all Walgreens exclusive transfers is all over the place. At my local Walgreens, most of them were very easy to find. You could find like cases and aisle just transfers area filled with them. for months, mind you. And the most recent one, and the last one, mind you, that being Medics, I can still find relatively in stock at my local Walgreens. Yes, maybe just the one, but still, that thing's been sitting there for the past, what, 2 years? And that was even longer than the previous released Minerva, Rattler, and also Blue Streak, with the other previous streakers like Ratchet and Brainstorm being much harder to find. Same applies with other bargain prices because those figures are also a lot harder to find, including Blue Streak. Technically Minerva, but Rattler is still available in high quantities on the Walgreens website. Still, after 4 years, I think. I think he's still there also. Might be incorrect, but last time I checked, he's still there. And that was last month. So yeah. He's still there. But yeah, that's all for day 6 of 12 Days of War. Like, comment, subscribe, and hopefully I shall see you for day 7. Bye.